and welcome back to my channel. It has been a hot minute since I've gotten in front of the camera. Without rambling on, I'm just gonna cut right to it. Today I'm doing a video all about online school, so whether you are online college, online high school, anything, hopefully these tips will help you guys. So on my Instagram, I asked you guys what questions you had about online school. So a little bit about me. This is going to be my third semester as a fully online student. Before everyone was forced to be an online student, I chose to be an online student my sophomore year of college. So I will do a whole video about that later on, about my major, why I changed schools, all of that. But if you want to, you can go watch my video about why I transferred. So I started out at an in-person college. Just wasn't a great fit for me. And so now I'm pursuing a career that I'm very excited about, and I am a fully online student. So I thought now would be a good time to hop on here and answer your guys' questions about online school, and hopefully I can help you guys. So I asked you guys questions on my Instagram, which if you're not following me on Instagram, be sure to do that. It's just at Sydney Himbro. I post a lot more there. Anyway, I asked you guys what questions you had about online school because I know that I kind of did this last semester when everyone was forced online, but no one really knew the right questions to ask because they hadn't experienced it yet. But now a lot of people are forced to go back to school online, and they're not going to be going back to campus or going back to their high school. And so they've experienced it and they have questions because they know what it's like. The first question, and I feel like a lot of them kind of revolve around this, is how to remain focused and have motivation. So for focus, my number one tip is to find your own space. So I'll talk about this later on in the video, but right now my space is my desk in my room or the kitchen table when my family is not home. Finding your own space is very important because it helps you eliminate distractions, it sets you up for success, and it turns your brain on to like, okay, now it's time to focus because I'm here. It's very easy to be focused when you're in a library or you're sitting in a classroom, but you don't really have those options when you do online school. So finding your own space is very, very important. I also like to set benchmark goals for myself. For example, if I get this done, then I can do this. So one thing I like to do is like, once I finish reading this, then I can go eat my lunch, or then I can check my phone. So setting like goals like that for myself helps me stay on track and helps me remain focused. As far as motivation goes, I am very motivated by getting things done. So I'll talk about this later on in the video again, but I love to make to-do lists. And so having things to check off my to-do list makes me feel so good. And so I think that's what really motivates me. And what else also motivates me is if I get this done, kind of like I talked about with the whole focus thing, if I get this done, then I can do that. So I like to reward myself. So whether it be I get this done and then I can go get coffee, or I get this done and then I can call Charlie, or I get this done and then I can go to this place. Having that kind of reward system set up for myself helps me stay on track, but also motivates me to get things done. And I also just like knowing that once I complete my checklist for the day, I can be done. And that's what's really good about online school, is you can just be like, okay, now school's over, I can go enjoy my day. So that motivates me as well. The next question is how to stay organized and not get overwhelmed and then not procrastinate. So for the organized and not get overwhelmed sort of thing, I make to-do lists every single week. So I'll insert a picture of my to-do list. I've talked about this before, but I basically go through at the beginning of the week and write down every single thing that I have to do for the week. So I don't just write down literature homework. I'll write down read page this to this, do this writing exercise. Having detailed checklists helps me stay organized, but it also helps me to not be overwhelmed. I make sure that I understand how long an assignment's gonna take. So if I know that it needs to be done in parts, I will type it up on my to-do list in parts. So that way I feel more motivated when I get something done and I don't get overwhelmed by this huge daunting task that I'm like, there are so many parts to it, but I don't know how to tackle it. If you break it down and chip away at it little by little, it helps you to not be as overwhelmed. I also divide my overall to-do list for the week into daily to-do lists. So that way I know once I get this done, I am on track for the week and I can put it away. So that helps me not be as overwhelmed as well, because if I'm just looking at this huge master to-do list, I will definitely be overwhelmed. And when I'm overwhelmed, I do not perform my best on my schoolwork. And then for procrastination, I personally do not procrastinate because I get so stressed and I do not perform well under pressure. I know some people can save something to the last minute and that's when they do their best work, but I know that that's not how I work. So for procrastination, I like to get my hardest and my least fun class out of the way first. So depending on what your school's set up like, you might have the freedom to do that. So for me, like last semester, that was my science class. I hate science. I am not a science person. And so I would just get that class out of the way at the very beginning of the week or the very beginning of the day. So that way I saved the things that I was actually passionate about. So for example, like my major classes, I saved those for either later in the day or later in the week, because then my momentum was built up to, okay, once I get this done, then I can focus on stuff that I'm actually passionate about. And it's very hard to procrastinate and feel lazy on things that you're passionate about. So then the next question is, what is the best way to take notes in online classes? If you know that you are a visual learner, then you cannot just rely on typing your notes. I learned this the very hard way, and I learned this in a physical classroom. Because I had a laptop for school, I brought it to class one day and I started typing my notes, and I realized that I did not retain any of that information. I am very much a visual learner, so if I write something, I will remember it. If you've not already seen my iPad video, I did a whole video about how I use my iPad Pro for school, and on that I talk about the app Notability, and so I do all of my notes on Notability because it gives me the best of both worlds. It helps me because I'm writing my notes, which helps me remember the information, but then I also have them digitally so I'm not just throwing a bunch of papers around. I would say that you just have to know what kind of learner you are, and if you're visual, then write your notes. Do not just resort to typing them, because I'm telling you, it doesn't end well. The next one is, how do you stay motivated / discipline yourself to do your coursework? So motivation and discipline are two different things for me. For motivation, like I said, I love the feeling of a completed checklist. For discipline, it's really all about your daily routine. Online school, there are pros and cons to it, but one that falls right in the middle is the fact that your schooling is completely on yourself. Like, you could literally not log in and just don't do the work and fail. Or you could log in and get the stuff done. So it really involves a lot of self-discipline, and luckily I was pretty good with that before I started online school. But for those of you who are going to online school or you're kind of struggling with it, the biggest thing is to realize that you have the freedom to relearn things, and you have the freedom to also sit there and let things go in one ear and out the other. One of the hardest transitions for me was not being in the physical classroom. So being in the physical classroom, it's very hard to do things that distract you, whereas when you're sitting at your house, you can be like, oh, I'm gonna multitask. I'm just going to listen to this lecture, but I'm also going to type this paper or put away laundry or do other tasks that don't have anything to do with it. So disciplining yourself is very important. One of my best tips is that if you don't understand something, you can watch it again. You can watch the lecture again. You can read the PowerPoint slide again. Whatever resources your teacher or professor is providing for you, you have access to them again, more than likely. And you also have to be willing to go and reach out and ask questions if you don't understand something. It's really all on you, which is the hardest thing to learn in online school. But once you figure out how to discipline yourself, you have to stick with it. You really just have to want it for yourself. So for me, like, I'm paying for school, and I know that if I just sit there and multitask and kind of like do things halfway, then I'm wasting my money. So that's kind of my motivation and how I discipline myself as well. Another person asked about time management. So I'm assuming like time management tips. One of the hardest parts about online school is that you don't have a schedule made out for you. So, you know, if you go to a campus or you go to a high school, they're like, at this time, you're gonna be in this class, and from this time to this time, you're gonna be at practice, and from this time to this time, this is when you can come eat lunch. And you don't have that when you're at online school. So my best tip is to make a daily schedule for yourself. And someone else asked about that later on in the video, so I'll talk about that later. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just gonna do this until I'm done, or I'll just get up and do this later. Setting a start time for yourself is really important, just like you would when you're in a classroom. Like, if you're at college, you might have a 9 a.m. class. You have to be at that 9 a.m. class, and that's when you're gonna start school. But when you're at home, it's not necessarily like that. So I like to start my work by 7:45 or 8 o'clock every single day. I set that time, and that's when my school starts, per se. And so that's a huge factor that plays into time management, is just the fact of getting started. Another thing that's really good about online school, and you might have the freedom to do this, is to find out when you're most productive. So for me, I know that I am not productive after 3 o'clock. Like that is when I shut down. I cannot think anymore. I'm tired. I'm ready to just wind down for the day. So I know that I'm a morning person, so I like to get up and get my schoolwork done before. So finding the time that you are most productive is very important in time management because you're gonna be using your time most efficiently and you're going to be getting the most stuff done at that time. Okay, this next question is very, very important and I'm so glad someone asked this, is how to transition from college to online learning. So like an in-person school to online learning. And this answer isn't going to be necessarily just for college students. It can apply to anyone, but you will learn what kind of learner you are very quickly. And sometimes you learn the hard way. So for me, I knew that I was not good at just winging it or just being like, okay, I'm just gonna do a little bit here and a little bit there and then eventually I'll get it all done. No, that was not my style. I learned really quickly that I had to be organized and that I had to see what I had to do written down. You also have to realize that when you're transitioning, if you are not just transitioning out of choice like I did, that every class is set up differently. So I know a lot of my friends last semester were like, Sydney, how do you do this? I cannot survive this online class. And I was like, you have to realize that your class was set up for in-person. So there's gonna be a learning curve for both you and the person that is instructing you and instructing your class. And so you have to kind of show them grace because they are learning how to transition to online just like you are. My class is meant to be taught online. So my class is going to look a lot different and you realize that you can't compare what I'm learning to the way that you are learning because your class is set up differently. It's also just a lot of trial and error. Like I said, you're gonna learn what kind of learner you are, you're gonna see what works, and so you have to show yourself grace too when you're transitioning. Like you might do something the first week and think, this is a great routine, this is a great schedule, this is a great way to get my things done, and then by week number 2, you're like, okay, this isn't working for me. So you have to be willing to be flexible and change what you're doing according to how you are reacting to it and your productivity. Also, my biggest thing for transitioning to online is to make sure that you are still plugged into your community. So whether that be in your class via like discussion boards or group chats or talking to your professors or emailing them or getting on phone calls, having conferences, things like that, make sure that you still have a connection to the people that you're going to school with. For me, like I'm in a digital marketing degree, and so a lot of it revolves around social media. So I connect with a lot of my classmates via social media. And that's a great way to, one, see their work that they're doing for our class and also just feel like I know some of my classmates. My biggest fear when I transitioned to online was that I did not want to be just another name that popped up on a screen. And so I made it my goal to make sure that I was responsive in conversations and that I gave thoughtful replies to discussion boards and that I hopped on a phone call whenever my professor offered it. And so just taking advantage of the time that you have to be a community with your classmates is very important. But then also transitioning online means that you're not having that face-to-face interaction. So you have to go out of your way to have that face-to-face interaction. I joined a service club in my community. That's the one time during the week that I know that I will be able to sit in a room with other people and have a sense of community. So having that both inside of your school and outside of your school is very important when you're transitioning to online learning. Another person asked, how do you complete your assignments ahead of time? So it's different for each class. So some classes I can do the whole semester in like a few weeks and be done. Other classes, they release the things on Sundays and they're only open until the next Sunday and you have that whole time to do your assignments. And other classes, they'll just release it by day. So it really just depends on your class and how your course is set up. I like to challenge myself to get everything done so I don't have to do any work on Fridays. It's like a 3-day weekend, which is very nice, and I have the freedom to do that. So that's kind of how I motivate myself to get all my coursework done ahead of time. I also try to take bigger assignments and work on them from day 1 of the week and kind of chip away at them throughout the week so they're not as intimidating. But I also use the first day of the week to get all of the little things out of the way. So little quizzes or little readings or little papers, things like that. I like to do those first so that way that's done and then I can focus on the bigger things throughout the week. And so that's kind of how I get my stuff done ahead of time and also just how I manage my assignments. Someone else asked, what does your daily routine look like? So I'm just gonna kind of base this off of what it looked like last year. I don't exactly know what I'm gonna be doing this school year because I haven't started my classes yet, but I just want to emphasize that having a daily routine is so important. And I know I talked about this again and I know I keep saying it, but it's very important to have a daily routine. I realized very quickly during quarantine that I I am not good when everything in my life revolves around me being independent. So when I was working from home and I was doing school from home and I was doing my service club from home and I was doing everything from home and like working out from home, it was not good for me. And I learned a lot about myself really quickly and that I need some structure to my day. Daily routine, let's go. Normally I wake up around 7 a.m. I have breakfast because my family is still here because they haven't left for work and school yet. I read my Bible in the morning. I like to start my day just kind of refreshed. I read my Bible, eat my breakfast, drink my coffee. All that's done. Then by 7:45 or 8-ish, I get dressed. I like to change my clothes. I don't like to sit in my pajamas. And I start on my schoolwork. I work on my schoolwork from about 7:45 or 8 to around 10:30 because I do work. So I work from 11 to 3-ish every day. I will go to work from 11 to 3. That also helps me stay motivated because I know that I only have a short amount of time to do my work in the morning. I will go work out right after that. And then I will come home, I'll finish up any schoolwork that I have to do, eat dinner, and then after dinner, I don't even touch school. Unless I absolutely have to, but most of the time, it allows me plenty of time to get my schoolwork done during the day. Mondays look a little bit different. Mondays are my grind days, so I don't go to work on Mondays, and so I do most of my assignments on Mondays, most of my readings and lectures and things like that, but I also set like a stop time so I can go work out. Just having breaks within the day are really important, and someone else asked that too. They said, how do you maintain a daily routine / schedule for school, meals, breaks, etc.? Like I said, I eat before I even start. I eat my breakfast, and then when I go to work, that's where I eat lunch. So that's kind of how I have my lunch break then. But when I was home during quarantine, I would make a schedule for myself, like literally like I would if I were on campus. I would be like, okay, lunch is at noon. And so I would stop at noon, I would eat my lunch, and then I would go back to work. But for me, the hardest part is like when I stop, going back to working. So I have to make sure that I'm in a good stopping place to do that. So that's kind of what my daily routine looked like. And then normally after dinner, I will work on something that I love, like YouTube, or I will go to my brother's soccer game, or things like that. That's my little daily routine. I'm gonna be posting more videos when school starts about my routine, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. I'm also planning on filming a morning routine for school because you guys liked my summer one, so I'm gonna be recording a morning routine sometime within the next few weeks for school. Another person asked, do you normally do your online school at home or somewhere else? So I wanna emphasize that no matter where you do your online school, it's very important to have your space, which is not your bed in your bedroom. I want to emphasize that. Not your bed in your bedroom. I will preach this over and over again. You are not productive in the same space that you have to relax in. I know for me, I cannot have those two things mixed because my brain does not correlate them very well. So if I'm at home and no one else is home, I do my work downstairs in the kitchen because it's outside of my room. I prefer to be out of my room just because I get distracted in my room. There are lots of things in here that I can get distracted with. So I prefer to do it downstairs at the kitchen. But during quarantine, when my whole family was home and they weren't working on school, I could not be down there. So I came up to my desk and I would just do my work at my desk. I kind of clean my space. Having a clean workspace is so important. But I prefer, because it says, do you normally do it? So normally it's at home, but I prefer to do it somewhere else. So I love going to a coffee shop. Going back to my daily routine, if I do go to a coffee shop, I will go there before I go to work at 11. So I prefer to go somewhere else just to get out of my space, and my brain like thinks, okay, this is school. So like for me, the coffee shop was my school. And I love that. Second to last questions. What are the basic supplies you need? Basically, I use my iPad Pro, my MacBook Pro, and I have a planner. And that's like the extent of my school supplies, but I'm always gonna be an online student, so that made sense to make those purchases. It's kind of basically whatever you would use for a normal school. So I'd recommend if you're about to start online school, obviously have a laptop or computer, some sort of internet access device. I would recommend having a notebook because you're gonna be taking notes no matter what class you're in, no matter what kind of school you're in, there's gonna be some kind of note-taking aspect. Having things to write with, having a planner to plan out things, make checklists, and then whatever else you need. So if you plan on printing materials out or you are getting materials that are printed out, I would have folders. I don't necessarily do that. I file all my things on my computer, but yeah, kind of just whatever you want, whatever you feel. And the last one is, how do you stay on task? So this is kind of like wrapping it all up. My biggest thing is if I can finish this, then I can do this. That keeps me on task because I know that there's only a short amount of time that I have to focus and then I can be done. Staying on task is very easy when I have things scheduled into my day, so kind of wrapping it back into the routine. So when I know that I have to go to work at 11, I know that from 8 to 11, I have to be focused and I have to stay on task, or else I'm going to struggle and have to do things at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock when I'm not as productive. Making checklists, like I said, I will preach checklists every single day of my life. I'm planning on doing a video about how to how I plan, so like a plan with me kind of video, where I will detail all of that. And then also just putting away distractions. So for me, like when my family was home, I knew I could not work out with them being downstairs because I would not stay on task. I would be constantly distracted. I also put away my phone, and that is not just like setting it on the desk next to me. That is literally either putting it in a different room or putting it over here on my bedside table, just putting it away. So I think that answers all of the questions. Sorry this video ended up so long. If you have any more questions, please just feel free to DM me on Instagram. I do respond to my comments, but I'd love to have a conversation with you on Instagram about all this stuff. This is something I'm actually really passionate about, and it's cool that I'm able to use my platform to speak out about things like this that are actually relevant and like real right now, that can help other people and not just people who choose to do online school. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Be sure to like this video if you like it. Comment down below if you have any more questions. I can answer them in the comments, or I can DM you on Instagram, and subscribe for more videos. I'm so thankful for all 16,000 of you. That's so crazy. Like, I grew so much in the past few months. I haven't even posted videos, but I promise I'm back and stronger than ever, and I'm really excited for this school year to be able to give you more content that's relevant like this. So thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!